All right, friends, especially those in the "my mom is fine, she just likes her milk warm and expired" denial stage. This one's for you. I'm Michelle Neely, a seniors real estate specialist and your host of Professionals People Avoid but Definitely Need to Talk to, where we tackle the conversations most people dodge until it's too late. And today, our guest is Braun from CarePatrol. He's basically a matchmaker, but instead of swiping left on bad dates, he helps families find safe, appropriate senior living options, no stress, no confusion, and no moldy carpet smells. Ron, let's just get this out of the way. Most people hear senior living and picture fluorescent lights, beige walls, and someone named Doris playing bingo against her will. What's the actual reality?
Well, thanks, Michelle, for having me. The actual reality is that there is a lot of bingo being played in senior living. And one of the first things we learn when we go in there is don't mess with bingo.
Yeah.
But it's not that anybody is forced to play. They do like to play. There's a plethora of activities that people are doing. And certainly it's not a bunch of gray walls and fluorescent lighting either. These are more like what you would envision as a standard apartment where you decorate yourself and just there's help available when you need it. So it's not like the nursing home that you were afraid of when you were a kid that you had to go to visit grandma.
Yeah, that actually sounds like somewhere I would like to live. So tell me, what kind of situations do people usually come to you in? Is it more the I'm totally prepared or help, my dad just flooded the kitchen trying to make oatmeal?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It's better to plan than to react, like with anything. But we do get some people that maybe they had a fall at home or they got sick and they have the standard and going to the hospital and they go to rehab. And then they think they're going to go home, but then they find out they really can't. And then we may only have 48 hours to find the appropriate place for them. We want to stay ahead of the game, and that we've done things in as little as a day before. Nobody likes to work under that kind of pressure. So better to work ahead of the time and try to get things planned out and be there ready for moving when you need to. But I guess the one thing, sometimes people will want to wait a long time and plan things and be I'm not ready, which is fine. But I've never seen anybody move too soon.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people wait too long, and then they end up skipping a certain step and they end up going straight to a nursing home because their care level has increased more than what they expected.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like a crisis scramble. So you help people before it actually gets to that point, or maybe even very much to that point.
Right.
I love that. So what I didn't realize until I started working in this space is how many different care options there were. There is independent living, assisted living, memory care. It's not just one size fits all. So how do you actually help families decide what is best for their loved one?
Well, we spend a lot of time with each family, whether it's with the senior themselves, with their loved ones, just trying to understand more about them. First, individually as a person, what kind of things do they like to do? What activities are important to them, or what kind of environment would they like to live in? I find that people, a lot of times, they maybe are stuck at home in the existing, not living phase.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all about you doing things. Doing more things is more about opportunity rather than the desire to want to do them. So if they had the opportunity, they would maybe do more activities and participate in more things. But because they're at home and maybe they don't drive anymore, they're not able to do that. So we spend a lot of time understanding that social interest of each of the individual clients. But then we also have to review their care needs, what their care needs are today. Talk about their medical situation. We don't have a crystal ball, but try to figure out what their care needs might be in the future. So, somebody that maybe has Parkinson's disease, their care needs might not be as bad today, but they might be considerably harder in the future.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we look at communities whose care capabilities grow with the needs of the resident, because nobody is going to want to go through this again and have to, as much fun as it is to work with us, that we don't want to have to do this again and try to find another place. And the last thing we look at is finances. I always say money is not everything, but it's usually a thing. We have to take that into account, especially if there's a possibility that somebody might have to transition to Medicaid in the future. We want to plan that carefully. So if you control your destiny, if you're going to transition to Medicaid at some point, make it in a place where the environment is a higher quality.
Okay, now this is a big question. What's the most common mistake people make when they're trying to figure this out all by themselves?
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier. There's multiple types of senior living. I think you said independent living, assisted living,
Right.
memory care, long-term care, all those type of things. And I think probably the biggest mistake people make is assuming they need a higher level of care than what they actually need.
Yes.
So getting in the wrong level of care. Sometimes people say, mom needs a nursing home, and it turns out maybe they don't. And there's a significant difference in cost and quality of life between assisted living and nursing home level. If the nursing home, we want people to strive to be in the least restrictive environment possible that will still meet their care needs. So try to get assisted living if we can. If they don't need a lot of care, they don't actually need any personal care, maybe independent living with a little bit of help might work. And again, each time you get to a less restrictive environment, it's probably going to save the individuals quite a bit of money as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I feel like sometimes people get overwhelmed and shut down, and then grandma might end up somewhere she really hates. So let's talk about the cost part, your cost part, because I know people hear placement service and they might think it will cost a small fortune. So can you break that down and how it actually works?
So there is never a fee for us, for the family. So our services work, well, a little bit like a realtor. We, when you're buying a house, or at least a little bit like what realtors used to do when you changed before you changed all the rules. But the last time we bought a house, we had a buyer's agent, and we told her the criteria we were looking for, the types of location, the stuff that we add in for this, we add in the care needs, and those are the criteria that we work with, and we use that to find a place. So once we find a community, if somebody moves into a community that we recommend, that community may pay us a referral fee. Now, that doesn't mean we only work with communities where we will get a placement fee. As last week I went into a community, there was a community that a family I was working with, it was the best fit for them, and it wasn't somebody that was working with us at this particular time, but it was the best place for them, so we went there, and they're going to move in there, because it's never the wrong thing to do the right thing.
Of
right?
course,
So that kind of karma, I believe, will ultimately pay off in the end, and we'll get, pay it forward, and there are more opportunities for us in the future for that. So always want to try to make sure everybody gets in the right place for them.
Yes, 100%. So did you catch that? It's free. Zero. No money at all, which also happens to be my emotional stability when it comes to people waiting too long to make a plan. So here's your sign. Don't wait for a crisis. Ron's your guy for senior care, and I'm your girl for downsizing, moving, or selling when the time comes. We've got the resources, you've got the people. Let's make this easier together. This has been Professionals People Avoid, but definitely need to talk to. Now, seriously, call your mom, or call us, or both. Bye.
Bye.